Hey everyone, this is Mark Treichel with another episode of With Flying Colors. I'm excited to be here with Rick Mung. Rick, how you doing today?
Doing great, Mark. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. NCUA has been announcing a lot of what they're calling rounds of deregulation proposals, and a lot of those I've described as turning happy to glad or glad to happy. But there's a couple of them that actually make a difference or make a potential difference, and one of them ties into field of membership. And they made a proposal on that. When I saw it, I thought, "Hey, Rick, I think you might know a lot about this. Maybe we should do a quick little podcast to clue people in." So, with that as a preface, maybe if you could kinda it's been a while since I had you on the podcast, maybe, kinda walk through what it is you did at NCUA and what it is you've been doing since NCUA, in the credit union arena.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, well, I was at NCUA. I was there, what, a little over 34 years. And for about 26 of it, I worked with field of membership, which meant bylaws, mergers, liquidations, and charter expansions, everything, a credit union want to do with its field of membership. I worked on. And since retiring, I have been helping credit unions with field of membership expansions, community charters, underserved areas. Added a low income association for a credit union. Did a new charter. Working with some other groups on new charters. So just a little of the whatever credit unions field of membership wise. I've been
That's what you've been
helping.
doing. Yeah, and you sometimes you help with my clients, and then sometimes you do some stuff on your own, and there was one situation where I think you worked out an appeal that went to the NCAA board, and we don't need to talk about the specifics of that particular credit union, but there's a how do I wanna say this? There's a lot of rhythm or rhyme to what you helped this one credit union appeal to what we're about to talk about relative to
Right. Um, I don't know. Is it okay to name the credit union? They're okay with it.
if they're okay and you're okay, let's let her roll. So with
Yeah.
that, I'll just kind of turn it over to you. You can talk about the proposal, you can talk about the appeal, or whatever you think makes sense to educate the public on this proposal on field membership.
Okay, yeah. So this the proposed rule change for FOM clarifies customer client relationship, the customer client relationship for adding a group to a field of membership. Currently, if a group is customer client related, it is not eligible for addition to a field of membership. And customer client relationship just is a little could be like good examples are Costco, AAA. You pay for a membership, but they're customer client because the primary reason for those membership is to get auto services, or in case of Costco, you know, you can buy enough stuff to that you can will to your great grandkids, it'll still be left.
Rick, I went into Costco for blueberries, and $1,000 later, I had 2 carts full. That ever happened to you?
Yes.
But I digress. Going to Costco is all about the good deals. It's not necessarily about it's the primary focus, I think, is what we should.
Yeah, but it is a membership, and so membership, associations in for credit union field of membership is based on membership, but it's doesn't qualify because it is a customer client. You pay for the membership so you can get the good deals. There's other, there's other customer client relationships that are kind of, they may or may not be, like you can join a zoo or a museum. Some of those are customer client relationships, some may qualify. And then there's the other, which this case specifically relates to, is fraternal organizations where you buy insurance. I worked Jennifer, the CEO at Polam Federal Credit Union in Los Angeles, contacted me about adding a fraternal organization. And, I said, well, it's going to be iffy, uh, because it is a fraternal organization. And long story short, we took it all the way up to the NCUA board as an appeal. And this rule is the direct result of that appeal.
And it was iffy because it basically the old rule said if there's a client relationship, you can't do it.
You can't do it. And it specifically said if it's a fraternal organization that sells insurance, it doesn't qualify, which this does. But the chartering manual, even though it says that, um, the chartering manual doesn't really define customer client. It doesn't define primarily what is the field of, membership relationship. But the chartering manual also says that the Knights of Columbus specifically qualifies as an associational group.
And that was
Well,
your hook, and I think that was your hook, right? That was where you were
that
able
was
to get your
that,
level
that
of intent, right?
exactly, that was one of my hooks, is that the chartering manual states the Knights of Columbus specifically qualifies. It's a fraternal organization that sells insurance. So why can't the fraternal organization she wanted to add, why exclude it? And then the interesting things is if you look at the Knights of Columbus, and there's also Thrivent, NCUA chartered Thrivent. It converted from I think a mutual bank or whatever. I don't remember what it
Mutual
was.
savings bank, yeah.
Bank, yeah, but it converted to a credit union, and Thrivent is also a mutual insurance. So I had Thrivent and Knights of Columbus doing the exact same thing. And when you look at Thrivent's website and information and Knights of Columbus, they are very much into the selling of the insurance. They're both highly rated. They have press releases about the insurance companies, everything else. And the group that Jennifer wanted to add, yeah, they sold insurance. They didn't start out selling insurance. They started out trying to serve their group, and then 8 to 10 years in, they wanted to help their very poor membership, and so they started offering insurance. So their primary focus was always the membership. They have tons of activities. They did tons of events. You go to their, I won't name the group, but you go to their website, and it's all about the group. And the insurance is just one of the things they offer. That was enough why Cure denied it. But the final appeal, the board denied it, but they also said they recognize that there are discrepancies in the rule, and they tasked Cure to rewrite the rule to allow it. So
So
the new
this is that proposal. This is that task coming
right.
through.
This is that rewrite. Now, in the appeal, it said they were supposed to do it within 9 months, and it's been almost, I think, 2 years now. So didn't quite make that. But, and to be fair to Cure and NCUA, I think the election came about and there was rules,
The
but
election and they're shrinking their staff and
and all of that. So yeah, so
yeah.
down to one board member. So, just there are some external things. But so yeah, so that's what this rule does is address that appeal, what there was, because some of the other things that, going through the appeal, and that was very interesting, is they said it's customer client, they required insurance, the purchase of insurance, so therefore that was the basis for the denial. But they did say if the group put in there that you didn't have to buy the insurance,
Would be a
they
member.
could they could add it to field of membership. And both Knights and Thrivent have a thing in there that says you do not have to purchase insurance, which is how they're able to get added to the field of membership. But the interesting thing about both of those, and that I brought out in the appeal, is that if they don't buy insurance from either one, neither one have voting rights. Neither one are considered they're considered affiliates, so they're not full members. And 90 I couldn't find a percent of what percent purchase insurance through them versus not. But if you look at their annual reports and the amount of insurance they sell, is my guess is 90+% or more purchase the insurance, because I also couldn't see that they do a whole heck of a lot of other activities that would make you want to join otherwise. So, I'm thinking it's a very high percent. Well, the interesting thing is the chartering manual gets into you have to be a full member, a voting member. Affiliate members do not qualify for membership per the chartering manual. And both Thrivent and Knights of Columbus consider anybody that doesn't buy the insurance to be affiliate members. So under the chartering manual, those members don't qualify.
They're
Now,
not eligible to join the
they're
credit.
not eligible to join the credit union. Now, you and I both know that they're getting added. The credit unions aren't looking at that. But, you know, the point is the chartering manual states they're not allowed to join. Or so they're not even eligible to join the credit union if they don't buy the insurance. So the only people eligible to join,
Have
if
to
they're
buy insurance.
members, are the ones that are buying insurance. So so this group, 100% of everybody, yeah, they don't have that clause. You don't have to, but 100% would be able to join the credit union because they have full voting right, whereas not everybody has the full voting right. So that was one of the discrepancies I brought out, is that, okay, if they don't buy the insurance, they're not eligible to join the credit union anyway, because the group requires them to buy it to even have voting rights. And those, affiliate members, the charting manual specifically states affiliate members do not qualify for membership.
That's wild. And then when you say the chartering manual, it's the current one, not the proposal.
Right.
We haven't even talked about what the how the proposal structured yet.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's the current one. So you've got these discrepancies that I brought out, and the board recognized that, but they still still denied the
Well,
appeal.
you got a proposed reg out of it. You got a commitment to make a proposed reg, and so let's and by the way, I think this I think you are the one and only former NCUA employee who helped the credit union appeal something that led to a proposed reg change. Hopefully we can say this led to a final reg change. And I think it will. I mean, if they
No,
propose it,
I think it will.
I think it will too. So, but
Yeah.
so congrats for being the only person to ever achieve that. And I know I haven't, because I've never really appealed anything, help anybody appeal anything like that. Camel codes or things like that. I've assisted on, but that's exciting. But so let's pivot to what the proposal says, and let's assume that as written, the proposal gets approved.
Right.
If someone wants to add someone like Polam is contemplating, mm, what would the new requirements be in order to get them added to the field of membership?
Well, the new rule is very, very sparse, and I'm very excited for it. And I think ultimately we can go back to Polam and they'll be able to get what they want with the new rule. That said, the new rule really doesn't address a lot of what I brought out. In fact, it doesn't address any of it at all. It just says that excuse me, it just says that NCUA will now look beyond the character, what the customer client relationship is. And if it's incidental, it'll prove it. So it doesn't change anything about who's eligible. It doesn't change voting rights. It doesn't change or even address any of that. And I like the rule because it's there. And like you said, I feel like I have a big part of why
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
But it's also not what I had in when the board in its denial stated. I guess I contemplated more than what's here because it eliminates the fraternal organization that offers insurance is not eligible for membership. It eliminates that and just basically says it'll look at the
The
entire.
totality of the circumstances.
Yeah, yeah, but it doesn't even say totality
Doesn't
of the
even say that.
circumstances.
So it
So
comes down to the narrative. You put forward the facts that show that it's not like a Costco where it's all about buying stuff. That there's other things that the organization does that would make someone be a member, and it's kind of like defining beauty, right? You know it when you
yeah,
see it, and
we-
you'll put the narrative in, and then NCUA will evaluate that. But then that creates an opportunity if they deny it, right, to appeal
but yeah,
them, right? So
so it's a very minimalist reg, and it just says they'll look behind the customer client, but it didn't really give a whole lot of guidance on that. If it'd be helpful if it actually said it'll look, if it meets the totality of the circumstances, otherwise it'll approve it. It doesn't it doesn't say that. And so given all the changes in Cure, the fact that there is now very little, if any,
corporate knowledge.
experience,
They lost a lot of people in the
a
buyout.
lot of people, and they've promoted people into positions that, they hadn't even been in Cure for more than a couple years, and they're already in positions that it's like, oh, huh? So without the added guidance or putting something in, I'm kind of concerned with where it's going to go or end up.
Well, the good news is glass half full will be they made the change, so they're open to it. And when they finalize this rule, you and Polam can be first in line to say, okay, here's what we think this means, and here's why you should approve it. And then if they approve it, then there's kind of a first standard that NCUA can go back to the next time somebody asks is, oh yeah, we already approved one of these.
Well,
So
yeah,
for
yeah,
your you're paving a road. You're paving a road here, Rick, with Polem, and Polem is paving a road. I think that's going to help some associations and some credit unions.
no, no, I agree. And I think Jennifer, what I've talked to her, is really happy. So if the group still wants to go through the process, who knows? But the group, other than that insurance, if you look at the totality of the circumstances for that particular group, they met them all, and there's a lot of groups that, I worked with over the years that got approved that, they didn't meet all the totality, they met the totality, but, there's a lot of areas that they didn't, and we still approved it. And this group, other than the fact that they were selling insurance or because they're a fraternal organization, that'd been around 150 years or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
They were selling the insurance before the IRS and all these rules even came into effect.
that's fine.
So they are truly, in every sense of the word, an association. They met everything, whereas a lot of associations don't.
Right,
So
right.
so I think that'll be helpful. And I think, yeah, should get approved if they want to still want to continue going forward.
Makes sense. So, anything else I should have asked you about this, Rick, about the proposal, about what might become final, or how this might work? We covered it, but
Yeah, no, I think we pretty much covered it because the rule itself is just very straightforward. it is the result of the appeal
Yep.
that finally uh, they're going forward with. But I think, that's it. Now, if anybody else does have more questions as a result of this or reading it, they're more than welcome to reach out to me.
And if someone is listen to this and they go, hey, I want to talk to Rick about this part of field membership, or quite frankly, any other type of field membership, what's the best way for someone to be able to reach?
Well, they can go to my email is rick@rcuservices.com, or they can go to my website, www.rcuservices.com, all one word. And then there's this place in there where they can put their information in. That'll get to me, or the email. Either works, and I'd be more than happy to discuss or talk to them about anything and everything they want. If they want more information on this rule change, and encourage anybody that has ever wanted to add an association that had customer client to write into the board. Make sure you get your comments in.
That's a great point. Yep. Yeah, if you've got situations that apply, point them out, and that'll help maybe get this moved a little quicker than the 2 years.
More
Get the proposal up.
because I know I plan on, sending in a comment, and
Excellent.
I know Jennifer is too. So
Fantastic. Well, Rick, I want to thank you for your time. And as we're talking here, I think I can't remember when we had level 1 training at NCUA, other than it was late 1986.
it was January of '87.
Oh, so okay, so they let us run around
Well,
credit unions for a few months before that, because I started
well,
in October.
yeah, because when we started, there was no level 1. It was
Oh, that's right. See, you're already removed.
it was. I guess when we finally went, it was, they may have called it level 1, but
Yeah,
I think now it's technically level 2.
got it. Yeah, so we met January 1987, almost
7, yeah,
39 years in a few months. So we'll
yeah.
have to celebrate our 40th anniversary of knowing each other come January of next year. I'll put it in my calendar.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, because I remember the first day Marty Kushner went in and said, we were there at a great time. It'd been a real mild winter, and we should really love DC. And I think 2 days later, they had a record snowstorm, and we couldn't even get into the building because they
I
shut down the
remember.
metro.
I remember that, and I stayed back. That was the Giants and Bills Super Bowl year, if I remember right. And there was a group that went into the office, and there was a group that didn't. And I stayed back with the entertaining, loud trainer that we had out of Boston, who will remain nameless, but he was a great trainer. And
Yeah,
he argued with the other guy, saying, "I'm not coming in," and I figured that he would win the argument, and I didn't want to go in through all that snow, because I left Minnesota. I didn't bring boots. It was supposed to be really good weather. So
yeah. Well, I didn't even have any because I wasn't from a place
because
that
you're from
had
the West
snow.
Coast, right? Yeah. So I know.
So,
Little,
but I can remember we were in the office and they sent everybody home, but they didn't send us out. And we stuck around another hour or two. And I think when they finally let us go, I think we were on one of the, if I remember right, one of the last metros that it was even allowed to leave.
wow. Yeah, and I think I never left the hotel that day, so I got lucky. All right, Rick, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, listeners, watchers. I want to thank you for listening or watching. I hope you'll do the same again soon. This is Mark Treichel signing off with flying colors.